Some of you may remember paper, and I decided to start putting down some notes before coming here. Next thing you know, I fell in love with my words, and so I needed the table because I'm going to look at them a lot. My account of learning today focuses on the learning I've been doing about the word learning. It's such a nice word. I can't go to sleep without learning something. If it doesn't, I don't care what it is. It could be in a book in a language I don't know. I'll poke around. I'll get something. Learning brings me back always to my home. My mother had to leave school long before she wanted to, and she resented it for her next 86 years. A constant complaint, and learning was what we did. In my home, after religion, came learning. And then those two somehow became each other. I was the eighth born. By the time I came of age, I had three brothers already teaching college. All I had to do was, kind of the runt of the family was to roll out of bed onto the conveyor belt, going through my living room and on into a career of teaching. And so, yes, learning, my God, I love it that we have teaching and learning. Some languages put those words together. We separate them probably at our peril. But there's some bad news. Words, they're like teenagers. They hang out. They do their own thing. They can get into trouble. They can get out of control. A perfectly lovely word like learning can get in the wrong crowd. Let's be specific. The word learning has fallen in with a bad crowd of assumptions, and most of them are still treated as virtues. The very tools that describe school failure are mostly describe school failure for mostly everybody eventually. Ironically, the same tools we use to reform the situation or try to reform the situation. Heavy emphasis there on ironically. The word learning has been hanging out with, and this is a harsh list, isolated cognitive skills disconnected from the world, stockpiled knowledge best used on tests, achievement by competition, much of it unfair from the get-go, arbitrary and loaded standardization measurements, access by aggression, best used when well-financed, confirmative action, good for those already in the right place, private tutoring, high tuition, neoliberal governance, more status than role, and all that correlated with race and class distinctions. No wonder when talking about themselves, learning and its learners celebrate themselves and put others down. This is not a new situation. Learning and arrogance have hung out together for a very long time. I've been collecting hundreds of years of complaints about it. They're delicious. But for the last century, particularly measured, individualized learning by percentile rankings has taken center stage. Natural studied graces, the articulateness of those not at Stanford, etc. All that be damned. One of my favorite words has been inhabited by institutional agendas that leave me uneasy. I want to be careful here. I treasure all the learning, most of the learning that universities bring to the world. We need all the wisdom we can get, especially now with National Assembly seeking inspiration over exploration. Yes to all the learning that's possible. Universities must take the lead on climate control, please God, and global health challenges. And their schools of education must protect children better than they have so far. They have to protect children from free market versions of more efficient learning. When I ask my students, a teacher education program, so we had 93 students. And one of the first questions I ask is, who's responsible? Name the people who are responsible for you being here. And you can probably guess that almost all of them say my parents. And I go down a notch, and a fair number of them say, thank you. A great teacher who reached out and touched me. I like that. No one ever mentions the people who applied and didn't get in. No one ever mentions the people who didn't apply because they couldn't afford it. No one ever mentions all the people who never heard of Stanford and can't imagine going to such a place. I don't think we're going to change that soon, but wouldn't it be nice if we could build into the education we do give a constant awareness of those who are not here, of their fundamental intelligence and ingenuity? Wouldn't it be nice if the students in my class knew whose shoulders they were standing on? You know that line. We often attribute it to Newton. I always thought Newton had a retirement dinner, and he went there and said, well, I've done all this work while standing on the shoulders of others. It turns out he was young, fairly young in his career, and Hooke complained to him that, he said, dear Newton, you're stealing all my ideas. Newton wrote back and said, I don't really steal your ideas, I just bring them to fruition. And then he put in that line about standing on the shoulders of giants. It might still be nice, but it could, no. Hooke, it turns out, was dwarf-like in stature. It was one of the nastiest lines in the history of the world. And, in fact, it has a 1,000-year history before Newton got his hands on it, right? Wouldn't it be nice if all our students were constantly informed that smartness is a very particular kind of thing, a particular kind of thing that they've been trained at like samurai warriors for their life, running through institutions of a particular kind, backed by a particular kind of money that takes children of a particular kind, et cetera, et cetera. Wouldn't it be nice? I don't want to throw them out. I don't want to change all that. Wouldn't it be nice if they understood how much else is there? Here's the problem. In America, we do not send our children to school to learn to read and write. We send our children to school to learn to read and write better than their neighbors. That's what a report card is. That's what the SATs are. It's all percentile rankings. In New York, I sent my kids to a nice liberal school. They'd send back effort reports. My daughter got a 2 on math. What's a 2? It's 1 to 5. Is 2 at that end or is it at the other end? It's absolutely crucial. The school was trying not to do careful status degradation games. Okay, good. But in America, we do not send our children to school to learn to read and write, but to read and write better than neighbors. Achilles never catches the tortoise. The bottom half never catches the upper half. That's logic for you. This apple cart needs upending, and the university has to take the lead. Stanford University, for example, could take the lead. It must produce learning, and it has to worry about how that learning is used and represented and mystified. Wouldn't it be wonderful if high-flying universal learning could be used to celebrate the wisdom of others and for the good of us all? So that's what I put on paper.